It sounded funny, maybe even sweet at first, but something about it made the room go quiet. What if those strange little jokes weren't just harmless humor, but actually early clues that dementia is quietly developing? In this video, you'll discover 9 documented verbal signs, specifically in the form of jokes, that often appear long before memory loss is diagnosed. These unsettling remarks have been reported by caregivers, clinicians, and families across hundreds of real dementia cases. By the end, you'll know what to listen for and how to tell the difference between a simple joke and something much more serious. Let's start with number 1. I guess I won't be around much longer, huh? At 68, Lois had always been cheerful, especially around her grandkids. But during a quiet moment at her son's house, she suddenly smiled and said, "I guess I won't be around much longer, huh?" No one laughed. Over the next few weeks, she repeated similar comments, lighthearted but unsettling. At first, the family brushed it off as dry humor, but soon after, Lois began misplacing common items, forgetting familiar names, and repeating questions she just asked. 4 years later, she was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Research confirms that when seniors begin joking about their own absence or making cryptic remarks like, "You won't have to worry about me much longer," or "I probably won't be around next year," it may be more than humor. These phrases often reflect a subtle loss of emotional insight, increased apathy, or even a quiet awareness that something inside is changing. When paired with memory decline, they're often early verbal signs of cognitive breakdown. Number 2, if I go missing, just check the neighbor's house. I might move in by accident. Roger, 77, began joking about losing his way home, even though he'd lived in the same neighborhood for 40 years. After walking back from the mailbox one day, he laughed and said, "If I go missing, just check the neighbor's house. I might move in by accident." His daughter smiled at the time, assuming it was just another one of his oddball remarks. But that comment came 2.5 years before his dementia diagnosis. Not long after, Roger began forgetting familiar faces, and once even walked into the wrong driveway, thinking it was his own. Experts note that disorientation jokes like, "I might end up in the wrong house," or "hope I come back to the right home," are often early verbal signs of spatial confusion. When these phrases are said repeatedly or without context, they may indicate early disruption in brain regions that handle orientation and familiarity, even years before full memory loss sets in. Number 3, what if I forgot who you were? Just kidding. Or am I? At 76, Dolores loved teasing her family, but over several weeks, she kept making the same strange joke, grinning and saying, "What if I forgot who you were? Just kidding. Or am I?" At first, it seemed like her usual sense of humor, but then she said it again at church, and again at the grocery store, even to people she knew well. A few months later, she started confusing dates, calling people by the wrong names, and forgetting parts of her routine. 2 years after the first joke, Dolores was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. Scientists found that verbal patterns involving sarcasm or eerie humor about memory, like "my brain's slipping away" or "hope I remember your name tomorrow," can be early signs of cognitive dysfunction. When these jokes are repeated inappropriately or out of context, they may reflect damage to parts of the brain responsible for social awareness and memory processing. The person might not recognize the discomfort their words create, which makes it all the more concerning. Number 4, if the house burns down, blame the voices in my head. 3 years before his diagnosis, Eugene, age 79, began making odd jokes that caught his family off guard. One day, after forgetting to turn off the stove, he laughed and said, "If the house burns down, blame the voices in my head." At first, everyone thought it was just his quirky sense of humor, but then it happened again. When he lost his wallet or misplaced the TV remote, he'd blame it on the voices. Over time, his memory lapses became harder to ignore, and confusion began creeping into everyday conversations. Research from the Alzheimer's Society highlights that early dementia can affect not just memory, but social filtering, leading to unusual, sometimes unsettling humor. Jokes like, "The voices made me do it," or "I think there's someone living in my attic," may reflect early hallucination-like thinking, confusion, or emotional detachment. When these remarks are repeated and out of character, they're often warning signs of neurological changes. Number 5. What if I just vanished one day? Poof, gone. Irene had always been lighthearted, but her tone had changed when she was 74. She started saying things like, "What if I just vanished one day? Poof, gone." Her family laughed nervously the first time, but then she said it again and again. Over time, she began forgetting what she went to the store for, skipping steps in familiar routines, and once even wandered halfway down the block without wearing shoes. That recurring joke began nearly 2 years before she was diagnosed with early dementia. Experts have noted that jokes about disappearing or suddenly being gone can reflect emotional withdrawal or a loss of grounding in time and place. When phrases like, "You'll miss me when I'm gone," or "I might vanish into thin air," become common from someone who's never said things like that before, it may be the brain's way of expressing detachment from reality before memory loss becomes undeniable. Number 6. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Wouldn't that be fun? At 72, Howard was always the family jokester, known for quick comebacks and playful sarcasm. But when he forgot his grandson's birthday for the first time, he just laughed and said, "Maybe I'm losing my mind. Wouldn't that be fun?" Everyone chuckled nervously, thinking it was just a joke. Over the next year, Howard began forgetting appointments, misplacing tools, and asking the same questions during family visits. 3 years later, he was diagnosed with early-stage dementia. The study found that seniors may use that sort of humor to cover up early confusion or disorientation. Remarks like, "My brain's out to lunch," or "Don't ask me, I'm going crazy," might sound like jokes, but they're often quiet acknowledgments that something is wrong. When these phrases become more frequent, they may reflect early emotional insight into a decline that hasn't fully surfaced yet. Number 7. Maybe I hid my keys from myself. Keeps things exciting. It started as a playful excuse from Nina, 73. Every time she forgot where she put something, she'd flash a smile and say, "Maybe I hid my keys from myself. Keeps things exciting." But over time, the joke didn't change, even as her forgetfulness did. She began losing track of where she parked, missing steps in recipes, and asking the same question multiple times. That same line, cheerful but unsettling, continued for over a year before Nina was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Neurologists note that repeated jokes used to mask forgetfulness, like, "I must be hiding things from myself," or "It's like my brain's playing tricks on me," can reflect early insight into cognitive decline. The repetition of the same quip, even as confusion worsens, may be the brain's attempt to normalize or cope with a growing sense of disorientation. Number 8. Don't trust me with your secrets. I might spill them to the voices. Leland, 78, had always loved wordplay, but his jokes began to take a strange turn. More than once he said, "Don't trust me with your secrets. I might spill them to the voices." His son brushed it off as just dad being quirky, but that odd line came nearly 3 years before his diagnosis. Over time, Leland began whispering to himself in empty rooms, asking about things no one else had heard and forgetting conversations minutes after they happened. Studies showed that when seniors joke about hearing voices or blame imaginary figures for forgetfulness, it may point to early disruptions in the brain's ability to process reality. Other phrases like, "The voices told me," or "My imaginary friend took it" may seem playful at first, but when repeated, they can signal the early blending of confusion with humor, often seen in dementia's early stages. Number 9. One day you'll come visit and I won't even know who you are. Won't that be fun? For Clarissa, 75, the first changes weren't in her memory. They were in her words. She began saying the same strange line to her husband, her son, even to the mail carrier. "One day you'll come visit and I won't even know who you are. Won't that be fun?" It sounded like a joke, but no one laughed. Within a year, Clarissa started forgetting familiar faces, repeating stories, and losing track of the day. 2 years after that first comment, she was diagnosed with early-stage dementia. Neurologists have documented this type of foreshadowing humor across multiple patients. Similar phrases like, "Hope you don't become a stranger," or "Watch me forget everyone one day," may reflect a subtle awareness that memory is slipping. When jokes about disconnection become frequent, they often signal a deeper change in the brain, long before memory tests confirm it. If you've noticed a loved one making jokes like these, especially the same ones, over and over, it might be time to pay closer attention. These aren't just strange comments. They're often early clues from a brain that's starting to change, even years before memory loss fully sets in.
And there you have it. What are your thoughts? Next, dive into this video for more essential tips to transform your health and help you thrive. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching Healthy End, and we'll see you there.